What if we followed our dreams? Obviously, it's harder than it sounds. Growing up, we quickly realize life isn't that simple. We have responsibilities. But what if we tried to do it anyways? What would we learn, and what would happen? When I was a kid, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I think most people are the same way, because it's rarely that simple. But as we grow up and we figure out who we are, we experience life. Sometimes life has amazing chapters, and other times hard chapters. This is a story of my life over the past year, of my ups and downs, what I felt, and how I grew as a person. About 1 year ago, I started this new job and I started this new relationship with this girl. I was in such a great place, but before too long, it all started to fall apart. And I think I hit rock bottom for the first time in my life, struggling with insomnia and feeling more alone than I really ever have felt before. For me to fix this, I needed to change everything. So I set a date. I had to leave before I turned 24. I did what any normal person does, and I bought the cheapest one-way ticket anywhere in the world that I could. I've traveled before, but this was the first time that I was going to go without intending to come back. If the first step is buying the ticket, the second probably is finding a place to live. It took a long time, but eventually I found 2 apartments. The first one ended up being taken, but the second one I got. As the date approached, I felt like I was at the end of a very long and sad book, I guess. I was more depressed than I'd ever been before in my life, I think. And I didn't know if this was the right decision to make, but I had to do something. So I sold a lot of my stuff. I boxed up what I could. And the night before I packed. And the next morning I left without any idea of what was ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain will turn on the fasten
We cut the legs off of our pants, threw our shoes into the ocean, sit back and wait for the daylight, sit back and wait for the daylight, slip and slide on subway grades.
I flew into Rome and I quickly realized I had not prepared at all. My phone was gonna die, I had no service, it was the middle of the night, and I didn't know where to go. But it was there that I met this Spanish auntie. She didn't speak English and I didn't speak Spanish, but through kind of hand gestures, we were able to figure out where to go. I'm pretty sure she thought I was kind of an idiot, but she pretty much saved my life and helped me pull up directions on Google Maps. That night, I arrived super late at my host's apartment. This poor guy, I felt so bad, but we went out for kebab and he gave me tips on the city. The next morning, he totally disappeared, and later he texted me that he had to work in a different city, so I had this little Italian apartment for a week by myself.
This is the coolest part of the apartment. I like this radio. This radio is awesome. Compost, nice deck, some grill outs, you know. It's gonna work on me.
I figured it out. Got this. After about a week of exploring Rome, I realized I was kind of happy. It was probably all the kebab that I was eating, but I just felt inspired about the future, I guess. At the time, I was reading this self-help book. It was about like building charisma or something, and it kind of just, it resonated with me. I think it just felt inspiring that I could grow and change myself in a direction. Reading this book, I was realizing that I can become a better person. And we might not always see it, but I think we all have this ability to become better people. Anyways, this feeling of having so much control over my life just felt so incredibly empowering. The next month was a blur. I left my room in Rome. Pierre apparently got into a car accident, but was okay. I worked and traveled, and I turned 24. I had gotten really sick about the second week, and I anticipated spending my birthday alone, but I ran into this really amazing, just truly wonderful couple, and we had this really great conversation, and I had like snot dripping down my nose. But when they realized that it was my birthday, I was spending it alone, they surprised me with a cake and we all made dinner together. I think this is like one of the kindest things that anyone has ever done for me. Just like total strangers. And I think at the time I was like, whoa, like maybe there are more of these types of people out there. Maybe I can find them and connect with them and make them my friends. And so the journey continued onwards. I took a boat across the Adriatic Sea into Croatia, a bus to Montenegro, and then took a Yugoslavia or a sleeper train to a new country and potentially a new beginning. And that morning, sweaty and sleep deprived and very, very hungry, I met my host Nicola at a small cafe in front of what was going to be my apartment. We ate and we kind of both bonded over having both difficult years. After that, we went up to the apartment. He gave me the keys and he left. And there I was, all alone in my new home. Welcome. Embarrassing. I started out spending a lot of time alone. I went out for coffee occasionally, but having my own space was really liberating for me. Living alone, especially in a new country, obviously has a ton of challenges. But I worked, I cooked, I cleaned, and did my shopping. I spent a lot of time getting and feeling stable. And eventually, I kind of got used to my way of living. Weeks and months passed by. Time passed, and seasons slowly began changing. However, I realized I was still lonely. I'd given myself purpose, but I hadn't really built any community. I didn't really have any friends. So sometime after, I went to this creative meetup and I met this guy who suggested I join a salsa group just a few blocks from where I lived. I've never been a group person. I always struggled in like sports and stuff, and I'm very anxious. So I really wasn't sure how this was going to go. But I powered through my massive social anxiety and I started. The first class was so overwhelming, but it ended up being incredibly fun. Quickly after, though, the class started to get really, really hard. So I started practicing before and after class, listening to salsa music literally all the time. And at this point, I had no idea why I was doing this, but I was terrified of failure. The peer pressure was insane. So I was thinking there's no way I can give up at this point. I just started taking extra salsa classes just to drive myself even more crazy. I was spending like the majority of my week thinking about this class. And thank God I pushed through, and I'm so proud of doing what I didn't know I could do before. During the second to last class, the teacher recorded me, and I'm happy that I was able to save this memory. I think looking back, it was at this point I realized how happy I was. I was stressed and overwhelmed, but I felt confident in the future somehow. Like, wow, and suddenly I realized I felt really content with my life. But unfortunately, all good things come to an end. At this point, my visa was ending and I had to leave. I said goodbye to everyone and I definitely teared up a little bit. Learning and growing with all of these people was incredibly special to me. So I wanted to stay longer, but my visa being up, I had to move on. I packed my bags, took a train, and went north. And I think it was then that, in the space of just 4 months, I realized how much progress I'd made as a person. I spent a great deal of my life thinking I wasn't capable of getting the things that I wanted, being scared of so much. But all of a sudden, the experiences I was having and the people I was meeting proved that it might not be true. You know, I was proud of myself. I think it's really important that we're proud of whatever we're trying to do. So I'd spread the trip over a week, planning to arrive the next Saturday in the city of Tallinn. I crossed through Hungary all the way to Lithuania by train, and in Vilnius, I met some cool people at a hostel the first night. We made hot chocolate and watched Home Alone since it was just a few days before Christmas. And that was such a cool experience. The next day, I boarded my final bus to Tallinn. Okay, just getting to the apartment for the first time. See how it is. I got to Tallinn days before Christmas and spent the holidays alone. I think I was just more exhausted than I'd ever been before. I'd gone so far, especially considering these last few years of my life. Felt like it was only then that I could just let go and relax and just chill out. I remember video calling my parents during Christmas, and I don't think I'd had a phone call conversation with them since I'd left, and I was kind of freaked out about it. I feel like my relationship with my parents has changed a lot over these past few years, but they showed me the baby. My sister had a baby while I was gone, and it was nice to see my mom and dad after so long. During the New Year's, I watched the fireworks from my window, and I worried about my future and what was next. But I was confident because I feel like for the first time in my life, I was following my heart. Of course, soon after, I stumbled into this running group I found on Instagram, and I met a lot of cool people who I had the opportunity to go bouldering and ice swimming with.
Oh, that's not too bad.
That's not so bad. See if you can touch the bottom.
I met the
with your
guy
feet.
who started the group, Jonas. Every day he was doing everything he could possibly do to build his community. I was really inspired by how hard he was pushing other people to pursue their goals as he worked on his own. He didn't have any money and he didn't seem to have any connections, but he did seem to have a dream. It made me wonder what my dreams are. What do I want to do in life? What do I want my life to look like? And what do I want to say?
I doubt you. The first time I let it go, you say virtue, but animals are all we know.
I don't know if I've been following my dreams or not, but I think that only good things can happen if you figure out what your heart is saying and try to do that thing. Life is a daring adventure or nothing at all.
And how far we've come.
But what do you think it means to follow your dreams? Because this is the end of the video. After Tallinn, I went back home for a couple months, and now I'm here. But that's a story for another time, maybe next video. This was all just an excuse to trick you into just hearing about my life. If you like the video, it really helps if you subscribe. It's really inspiring to me. And yeah, this is the end of the video. Okie dokie.